We are live, the speed of sound of gravity, and Nicholas, proclaimer of the Messiah. So go ahead and introduce yourself if you want. Your channel, by the way, is linked in the description. I put it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I have to. Did we get some echo? We're good. So go ahead.
I wonder if I have it open too. Oh, I'm echoing. I'm sorry about that. I'm not usually, I put a lot of responsibility on myself for those words I said, so it's a little bit more nerve-wracking than a normal stream might be. So I forgot to mute that, just to be totally honest. But that is my introduction. I'm Nicholas, proclaimer of Messiah. My YouTube channel kind of speaks for myself. We're having some contention in this greater community, the both sides of the debate, being one community that debates against each other, if that makes any sense. I don't know if community is the right word, but on this whole subject of Diet Coke being just, or DNA being just a chemical like Coke and Diet Coke, and Diet Coke having a code to the same extent that DNA has code to it. This idea that humans are the ones interpreting the code, because it's actually the biomechanics that are interpreting the code. So we're not waiting for a human to interpret it as code and call it code, for instance. And these are just like really blatant facts that are in denial at the moment. And then also our godless engineer, he said, ever, 3 times. I think he said the only people who have ever, maybe it was said, ever proposed, or who ever think this, something right along those lines, but he said ever 3 times, think that DNA is code, are creationists. And he was proven wrong in the introduction of that debate. It was proven to be really, it's a lie, Obviously, he didn't have that information. He bore witness to information. That witness was false. And he's an influencer publicly in the community. And I think it's important for people to be freed from lies. So I went in controversially and very strategically, went as hard as I could on him at specific moments when he was showing the debate. And it's my understanding that you and some other people around our immediate community, Speed of Sound, are supporting that he did well in that debate, and that he has some kind of point about this whole no code thing and all that. And I think we just got to set that straight, because as it is right now, it is embarrassing for you, and I've already come to do what I've said I'll do. So it's like, Matt Dillahunty, he just did a good job making a really good Bible scholar look bad in a debate yesterday, and did a good job for what he wanted to do, accomplished. So I did like a live stream. And at first, I thought Matt Dillahunty won the debate. That's not exactly how I see it now that I dissected the live stream. But the point is like, I didn't just pretend that it never happened kind of a thing, And this ignorance, this pretending it never happened kind of a thing, this pretending in the first place that it's not code, who would pretend something that absurd? Well, if it's required because the code shows that there is a designer, so we know that for a fact now, then for atheism to survive, it's kind of stuck in this place of absurdity. And that's what I want to expose for the sake of those who are trapped in the distance from Christ. If your father is not God, your father is deception. And I love people, and that's why I went into that live stream and of godless engineers. I need to drink a little water. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
I really appreciate you giving me a chance to talk. Yeah, I'll let you respond.
So number one, I never said that it wasn't code. I believe I made it one statement where I said, "Is it code?" Well, yes and no, and there's a reason for that equivocation. Basically, there are a number of biologists today and geneticists today that will push back on you saying it's a code, because we have a loaded word here with a common meaning, right? And I have never said it's not a code, because
Okay, can
And
we directly address godless like sort of the verdict on what godless engineer said, kind of a
we're
thing?
go-
'Cause this whole just, I mean, he's trying to argue against God, and he says it's just a chemical like Diet Coke or Coke.
well, it is just a chemical. I mean, you understand that.
See, that word "just" is a loaded word. It actually is defined by trying to load the statement. That's the
Okay,
definition of "just" there.
it is a very complicated chemical. Let's put it there. Okay, so I'm trying to tell you
Oh
my
no, I mean
position.
it actually carries the code of an intelligent designer, and that's obvious. And you're denying the obvious, and
I'm
this is embarrassing for you.
I'm trying to tell you my position, so you're going to have
Well,
to.
I don't. We can have a debate sometime, and I will debate the topic of abiogenesis with you. I need like maybe a week of abiogenesis. Well, I'll be, of course, taking the information proof approach, so I'll need to prepare on some vocabulary, but I'll debate it with you. But I honestly didn't come to like be taught today. I came to have like a discussion. So if you want to make claims, I'll listen to claims, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to a lecture giving the proof. I'll debate you sometime, and you can provide those as your
Okay,
side of the debate.
okay. Back up to what was your original question? You're saying what?
If we can focus on like a verdict about godless engineers' statements that it's just a chemical like Diet Coke or Coke, he's trying to use that as evidence against God. Just is defined as a loaded word. You don't want to use code because it's a loaded word.
Okay, am I here?
But you're going to let him use just there,
Am I
defined as being by
am
loading
I
the statement.
am I defending godless engineer here, or am I talking about my own views? I thought you were going to embarrass me, not godless
I
engineer.
said I would take on. Well, I said all the best at once, but I'm not here with the best. Not as like an insult. I'm just saying, like, it's not like we were actually like called the phone and got the best kind of a thing. But I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
hold on a second. Got the best what?
We don't have the best here. I said I'd take on your best. It's not like we have your best here. And I'm not saying that as an insult. I just mean like we didn't call people and get the best here. It was just like.
Oh, I could invite them in. I could invite them in if you want. I'm sure they'd come. But
Well, I wouldn't consider them the best. But if Godless Engineer would like to come in, I mean.
Okay, let's just back up a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
DNA is a code. It basically adheres to biosemiotics, meaning there's a signifier, and the signifier is the codon. Okay, and there's an interpreter, which is the tRNA molecule. And then there is the result or the object of it, which would be the amino acid that it picks. So in that manner, it's a code, and it's fine to call it a code, but you don't want to load that word up. And now you went and loaded it up with, okay, it's a code, so there's a designer. That is just pure bullshit.
Well,
You cannot make that inference. No, not the more we learn. No biologists are going to agree with you on that.
Okay, well, I would just like the record to show that this is what speed of sound is saying.
No biologist is going to agree with you that because we call it a code, because it's a code biosemiotically, that implies that there's a designer. The only biologist you're going to find that agrees with you is one that presupposes Christianity or has an existing belief in this bullshit. If you look at the Royal Society and John Maddox's paper, not one of those papers agree with intelligent design. I challenge you to find one paper in that issue of Royal Society that agrees with you. You got one?
It's not really about the conclusions that people with presuppositions make, but the papers are records of the scientific process and data as well, and analyses of them that can be assessed and that can be used against the worldview that it contradicts, even though it's trying to say it does not contradict it.
Where does the paper contradict our worldview? Which paper contradicts our worldview, and exactly how? You want to tell us how? Pull a paper up. Pull a paper up.
Well, I'm not the pull the paper ups guy, but if you want,
I am. Oh, I can pull
if
some
you
up
want
for
to
you.
have a debate, then I'll say the things I have to say against your side of the debate, and you can say the things you have to say against my side of the debate. Because at this point, I don't think you're worthy of like debating SFT or logical, plausible, probable, or anything. So a debate with me, since this sort of our level of being so layman about this is
Who's a layman here?
both of us.
I don't think I'm a layman. I've
Okay.
studied this subject. Okay. I can
Well,
read those
the
papers.
way you tried to like kind of be backpedally supportive of godless engineer with his absurd statements, there's some kind of absurd dishonesty there. So if your expertise is being destroyed by your fear of God's truth being proven, then I don't know what to say. That's destroying your expertise. And if your expertise is being
Oh my
destroyed,
God.
then you don't have your expertise. It's destroyed.
I don't even know how to respond to that. Okay. This is your idea of a conversation. That's cool.
Well, no,
Okay. My
I said I would come
support,
to
my
embarrass
support
you.
of godless engineer, okay, is that he did a good job in the debate with what he had and where he was coming from. I don't agree with everything that he said or how he said it. And I never fucking said that it was a code, wasn't a code, okay? That is not my claim, even though Maddox misrepresented me saying that. So we got that cleared up, right? So it's a code. But because it's a code does not imply that there was a designer. How do you make that implication?
How do I make that implication that the code? Well, I mean,
You realize that the code is in the DNA.
wait, I'm going to say some
right?
things.
Okay.
I mean, Maddox sufficiently describes it better than I do. You see, we in Christ are one body. So he's a member of my body in Christ, and I'm a member of his body in Christ. And I really feel perfectly comfortable saying, like, a lot of these debates have happened. I haven't come here to, like, be the lesser opponent of debates that are already happening. And so I'm just really going to cite my fellows in Christ, like standing for truth and John Maddox and the way that they've put it. And if we get into
so you guys are a cult?
no, we're one body in Christ. We are Christ's body, the church.
I call it a
So
cult.
so the foot cannot say it does not need the eye, you know?
Yeah, well, we're not a cult, okay? Godless Engineer and I have never actually met. We're going to meet next week. We're hoping to straighten a few things out about all of this. But no, we're not a cult. We all have different worldviews. We have different opinions on this stuff. You'll find that different biologists will say, some will say it's a code, some will say it's not a code. Some will push back on you. And the reason they do that is because you make that implication. It's a code, therefore God had to do it. And that's the part that we're pushing back on.
Well,
you have to show me how that works.
Well, there's also the fact that chemicals don't do that.
Chemicals don't do what? They certainly do.
They don't do anything. There's just nothing that chemicals do that chemicals
Okay,
can do.
no, we're not talking about abiogenesis. We're talking about the DNA.
If you're talking about common ancestry, you have to talk about abiogenesis. If you don't have
when did I bring up common ancestry?
Well, what are your choices?
When?
God, abiogenesis, or what else?
When did I bring this up? We're talking about DNA being a code,
but
right?
We're talking about it in context of God and no God. So then abiogenesis, God,
no,
or what's
you
the third
are.
option?
You're talking.
Yeah, that's what I'm here to talk about. I said that I was saying that, like, all these atheists, I can embarrass them all at once.
So you believe in God, and I don't believe in God, but that has nothing to do with DNA being a code.
Well, nothing. It does, because abiogenesis is impossible. So if it is if evolution is happening even in the way you think it is, that proves a God, because it's physically impossible. And abiogenesis is impossible. So the fact that life started proves a God.
And you're a layman.
Even if the timeline,
you're a layman, so you know that. How does a layman know that? How do you know?
I'm a well-informed layman with good logic and good intelligence, and I can look into things and test things. But getting to the point of memorizing things and arguing about them, there's so many things I do argue about, and there's so much I am learning. I'm a limited vessel. My size is limited. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Let's see. Looking at some chats here. Not in a practical sense, it acts as a means for the. Okay, we're talking about DNA being a code.
Well, I still want a verdict on that Diet Coke statement. That's
What do you mean a verdict?
Well, because there's the lying, right? Godless Engineer was lying to the community, and the community are like being supportive, and he hasn't even apologized. And that just seems like really kind of masochistic and weird, to just like.
So what was the context where he said it was Diet Coke? Do you have the clip?
I mean, I can pull it up and share the screen. Yeah.
He said it was as much a chemical as Diet Coke is, which I would agree with.
Well, then during the debate, when I asked him if Diet Coke is a code, then he tried to explain how, I I guess he was referring to like molecules could be interpreted as a code. And, then John Maddox had to press him because he really wasn't trying to address the whole point about saying it's, we're talking about just a chemical. Just means loaded word. And when we dig deep into this debate and stuff, we found that just referred to the load is that it's not especially code to evidence a designer. That's his claim. Now, if you want to say prove a designer, that's a different discussion. If you're trying to say it does not evidence a designer, then you're embarrassing yourself.
It's not evidence of the designer at all.
Okay, I mean, I actually kind of think that like we're just done. Like I've done my job.
And your layman's opinion of me embarrassing myself is worth about that much. Okay, that much to me because I am not a fucking layman because I know this stuff, right? So challenge me on something.
The layman knows better shows like how desperate you are to deny God. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't understand enough. It's like the swimming pool at my next door neighbor's house, and I have a coffee mug. I don't need to take like measuring tape and measure their swimming pool to tell it's bigger than my coffee mug. Even though if I put it right by my face, the coffee mug looks bigger to me, but I still know the swimming pool's bigger. I don't have to measure anything. The levels of absurdity here, they don't require expert measure. This is what is so embarrassing for you.
I am so embarrassed for you, son. You are completely clueless about this field, right? You know nothing about it, and you're making all these goddamn claims. You're making all these claims.
That's better than you standing with your not brothers, but we have to agree because if we face the truth, then we know God exists.
Brothers?
They're your not brothers because you said you're not like a cult like we are, but yeah,
we're not a cult. We're human beings, of course. We all get along like human beings.
Yeah, but you have one.
Except for you guys.
You have one enemy, truth. That proves God, that you have to fight against truth, and that shows like what's going on politically with the world and stuff too. The one enemy, truth. This is a big deal. Christ is the center of everything.
So, are you feeling the Spirit right now?
It's not a feeling. It's not about feelings. It's about truth. It's about truth.
Well, tell me about Spirit.
About Spirit. Well, hold on, let me take a step again. A spirit means gust, like a current of air. So that's why it's the Holy Ghost, the Holy Gust. And soul means breath. So, for instance, when the Old Testament says the life is in the blood, it says the breath is in the blood, which is I think we know that's true with oxygen. It's a fair thing to say. With the way the Hebrew language works, it's definitely fair.
So how does it feel?
How does it feel? Well, I came in kind of nervous because I put a lot of responsibility on myself, and then there's a bit of I feel flesh. So what I feel is like a little bit of
why do you?
It's not about feelings.
Not about feelings. So you don't feel the Spirit. So you don't feel spirituality. Well, you don't experience it.
Well, there's times when I can focus on that, and then because I'm focusing on that, it'll affect my feelings, but I'm kind of busy at work here. It's just flowing through me. My honesty is just flowing through my brain.
I think your anger is flowing through you. Maybe your nervousness. Maybe you're just nervous because I have
biophysical nervousness, like some adrenaline in me.
So you told your brothers that you're going to come and embarrass me, and that's kind of what you feel you have to do.
No, I didn't tell them. I spoke to you. I don't think very many of them, if any of them, saw that comment.
Oh, okay. So you got no pressure on you here. So.
Well, the pressure is on myself because I made a bold statement, and I care about my past statements. I'm not like Godless Engineer or you sound,
Well, I assumed you would drop
the honesty,
Oh yeah. What did you just tell me? Did you say that I don't have integrity and honesty? You know this? How?
Because you won't just straightforwardly talk about the Godless Engineer debate in reality, and there's a lot of other denying reality.
Okay, Godless Engineer knows engineering, he knows coding, he knows software, he knows a bit about genetics.
Know better. That's why he would not admit that he was a software engineer. When he was asked what kind of engineer, he wouldn't say why. That would make him more of an authority in the debate. Like, why didn't he just say it? Well, because it was embarrassing. And the Naked Emperor, it's like, I don't really care that it feels like you have clothes on. I'm not going to pretend you're not naked. I mean, I'm more referring to godless engineer than you.
Well, that's what really blows me away about you guys is how certain you are of the science that you don't know, and that is really odd to me. And the other thing that's odd to me is why you feel like you need to embarrass me. Why you need to tell me I don't have integrity? I don't have integrity because I didn't watch the debate entirely. I watched some clips from it. I saw the Diet Coke part. I mostly watched the after shows, and I watched the comments about it. But I mean, I'm not here to defend
Well,
him or the debate.
there's a wolf lying to your community on the topic that you like to address.
There's a what?
A wolf?
Wolf?
Yeah, godless engineer lying.
No, he's not lying.
He's trying to give them a straw man so that they can go well, because the steel man would defeat their side and then they would lose. Is the reason he's giving them a straw man. But if you want to set someone out to consider the facts, you don't give them the straw man. You steel man the opposition.
Okay, you sounded a lot more intelligent when you talked to Smokey Saint. I think you should calm down, take a breath, get your reason back with you. Okay,
I'm perfectly in reason. Thank you very much, though.
It sounds like you're performing or something.
No, not at all.
I'm not entirely sure. Okay, but you don't sound as smart as you did when you talked to Smokey. I thought
I'm
you
not
sounded
trying
pretty
to sound or look anything. I'm just honest. I'm just honest. I don't know what else I can say.
Hang on a second here. Let's see. What?
I mean, I take this stuff seriously. I don't want to be in front of people showing my face, taking controversial stances, super
Yeah, I think you're
strong, but it's I have a responsibility that if not me, then who? Truth has to be boldly stood. We now have this level of evidence is worthy of boldly standing on. I don't have to pretend I'm in some weird question spot where we have to have these I didn't come here for drawn out scientific lectures. I do appreciate what you said about code earlier. That was concise and on top, and so.
Okay, GE Iron Charioteer knows more about it. He used Coke and Diet Coke as an analogy, and I think you guys are the ones that strawmanned him and brought it into the debate. And he wanted to have a debate. The parts of the debate I saw, it was genetic engineer was trying to bring it back on track and get it back to a discussion about evolution rather than code and all of that.
Straw man, and he didn't because it wasn't a straw man. So I mean, the debate speaks for itself. The whole thing is you said the proper thing about code. It's just I don't know why this game's being played to act like what you said is
nobody's playing.
What godless engineer said.
Depending on the context, we will answer you differently on what you think a code is. Now, if we feel that you are trying to load the word code,
I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the facts of code.
The facts of code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain objective parameters that we're calling code that we're agreeing on that these things have. So it's not anything about what you're calling code for this reason or something.
When you call it a code, what do you mean?
I call it a code. What do I mean? Well, I refer to the information having purpose for what result it'll have in the future. Then it goes into something that interprets it unto use. And then I guess it might be kind of as simple as that, but then this code is complex and highly functional, which goes into a lot more stuff as a pretty basic description. There's other vocabulary I could quote, but I don't want to quote vocabulary that I haven't studied. Like I said, if you want to debate the topic, then I just need, I'll probably ask for 2 weeks because it's not I'm really busy, but I need some time to get up on some vocabulary.
Not much of a debater.
I could have a debate on it.
Anyway, how did you get to where you are now? Have you ever been an atheist, or were you always a believer?
I was I turned agnostic when I was I guess about 13. If I was, yeah, that's probably right. And okay. I was praying to God well, I don't have any proof that you exist, so how can I believe in you kind of a thing. And then I told him, like, I'm sorry, but I don't believe in you. And then I was agnostic until somewhere around 23 or 26 years old, somewhere in that time range.
Yep.
I started seeing that the world, the way I'd been taught it, was like not true in so many ways. And so then the most like ringing true words that I knew were the parables of Jesus, the way that like they cite logic to speak a point and speak to the truthness within the person themselves and stuff. And so being well informed on educated on evolution, I did very well in that biology class. That's how I keep up with all these videos, and that was half a lifetime ago, because I'm 36 now.
Yeah.
So being educated on also having an understanding of spiritual matters and a base level education on what the different spiritual systems are. And it's Christ, and that really just seemed like the wisest, smartest person, not seemed, that I assessed as the wisest, smartest person that I knew of. So I started looking that way, but I was attached to my sin, and I was a false Christian until I was 33. But there was a gradual process in there where it was like I was still agnostic, but listening to Christ. And then it was like, well, obviously, Christ is the way, but I didn't trust him, I didn't put my actions into any kind of trust in him. And then I was suddenly reborn at 33. And
Oh, you froze. Something went wrong. We lost you. Oh, we have a little connection problem. Chill break. Yeah, Iron Charioteer, I agree. Anxiety is a problem. And I have a cat laying on my everything. Seem to have lost him. I don't know if he's going to go out and come back. But we have some dead air here. So, definition of a code. I'm not sure if he ever got to that. Okay, he's trying to come because he's going to come back in. So, I didn't quite catch his definition of a code. It seems sort of. Maybe somebody can help me out. Did anybody catch that? But Thor, yeah, I did have a cat beard for a while. He hasn't come back yet. We're waiting. But I think this has, been sort of it felt like an assault. I mean, I kind of expected to have a conversation about spirituality, maybe, and evolution. I didn't expect to be, I'm not sure if I was challenged to defend everything godless engineers said and believed. But I thought GE did a really good job in the, GE did a really good job in that debate, I think, except that he kept trying to bring it back on track with evolution, and they kept hammering him with this code and Diet Coke thing, which was basically them straw manning him. I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. Anybody else want to come in and one of you guys, Fish, Leophilius, Immutable? Any takers? I don't think GE was a laughing stock at all. I think he was rolling his eyes a lot and face palming a lot, Otangelo, and I think he had really good reason, because Maddox was running off on some kind of a rant, just like what happened here when we started this. I mean, I could have done a lot of eye rolling and face palming, because he just came on with this insult or assault, like he's going to embarrass me over what. So it's a code. It's a 6-bit code. We don't care. I don't think he was embarrassed, Otangelo. Maybe his internet went out. I'm not sure. Let me go check my email. Cat, come on. Thor. You got it. Okay. Here's Thor. Everybody meet Thor. Say hi, Thor. Thor's going away now. Oh, goodbye, Thor. You're too fat. Thor weighs about 15 pounds. Eats a lot of party time. Do one of you guys want to stop in and fill some space here? My partners? Hang on a second. I'm going to do something else. Forgive me. Did not expect this. You guys all have links now. Okay, no takers. I think I'm going to end the broadcast. Maybe the email is not working. Hang on a second here. Short break. Oh, we got somebody. How about that? Hey.
Hopefully you got good sound. So I just wanted to pop in because I don't think Otangelo understands statistical mathematics very well.
No.
Biology is a statistical impossibility, which makes no sense because in order for something to be impossible statistically, the probability has to be 0. The probability of abiogenesis occurring is not 0. So I don't think he understands statistics very well.
Right. So he put that out there, and
even if the possibility is an extremely small number, as long as it's non-zero, there is still a possibility that it can occur. You can say that he would be accurate to say that it is statistically improbable, at least based on the numbers he gives. I would need to see sources for those, and then I would have to talk with professional geneticists and mathematicians and statisticians to figure out if these numbers are even accurate representations or not. But based on his numbers, he would be accurate to say that it's statistically improbable, but to use the word impossible is simply not correct, straightforwardly. And I could probably, I don't know if I could get them to come in here now, but I could probably contact people that are much more well-versed in math like Steve McRae. I could probably even ask Landon Curtin that would say exactly what I've said here. As long as the possibility is not 0, it can happen. It doesn't mean it will, even ever, but it can.
Yeah.
So he's straightforwardly
wrong. Would you say that
wrong
gravity not happening can happen?
What's that?
Like,
Yeah,
you
but
say?
the probability of gravity happening is 1. Because we've
Yeah.
already observed it happening.
Oh, okay. So then what you're saying is that
The probability of
observed-
something
we have
happening that's
observed-
already
we have
occurred is 1.
Yeah, but we have
Because it's already
observed the
happened.
limits of chemicals. So the probabilities of the
No, we
limits of
haven't.
chemicals are 1.
We haven't
Hey.
observed the limits of chemicals. We
No,
Okay,
create
I
new
would
chemical
like the record
compounds
to show
every
that
day.
Leo Philius does not think that we have
There are
observed any of the
isotopes
limits of
of
chemicals.
there are isotopes of elements that we discover daily. There are new chemicals
Well,
that we've never
I
seen
didn't
before that we
say the
discover daily.
boundaries
We do not
of
know the limits of
chemicals.
chemistry.
Like, I didn't say the boundaries, like everything about them. I said the limits. Like, based on their limitations, chemicals cannot do that.
We don't fully understand the limitations of chemicals. We don't.
Well, this is a really bad of the gaps argument here, like super of the gapsy.
What if the gaps?
What your argument is? It's an argument of the gaps. Like, we have so much proof that chemicals
What
don't
of
do that.
the gaps?
Then, well, you're just
Don't do what?
saying no matter how much proof we have
Well,
that
you said
chemicals
chemicals
don't do that.
What
no
is it
matter
that
how much
chemicals
proof-
don't do?
Let me finish my sentence, or I'm just going to stop talking with you, to be honest. I mean, if you want to interrupt when I'm a few sentences deep so that we can have interchange, that's cool.
Well,
But
you're
gotta
saying
make sure.
something, but then not expanding on what you said. You said, well, chemicals don't do that. What is it that they don't do?
I'm only you're not letting me get started. I don't mind if you interrupt at some point, but you've got to let me get started and say what I'm saying first before you interrupt. So,
Okay,
yeah,
Otangelo quit. By
I'm
the way.
saying that we know enough about the limits of chemicals that we know chemicals don't do that, and you're saying that we might not know something, therefore. That's an of the
You're saying
gaps
chemicals
argument.
don't
Like,
do
when they
that.
say God of the
What is
gaps.
it that you're saying the chemicals can't do?
Oh,
That's what I wanna
chemicals
know.
don't dynamically organize into propellant, self-organized, coded, functional systems.
DNA doesn't do any of that?
Anything similar to prebiotics,
RNA doesn't do that?
and especially nothing similar to biotics. Chemical processes don't go in that direction. That's not what chemicals
So
do.
DNA and RNA don't do those
The
things.
probability of that fact is 1, Leophilius, according to your logic. 1.
So
100%.
DNA and RNA don't do the things. DNA and RNA don't do the things that you said that they can't do because they're both chemicals. So we've literally seen
but
chemicals
natural
do things
chemical
we just said we've never
processes
seen
don't bring
chemicals
the
do.
rise to that.
We don't know that.
I mean, now you're really having a silly discussion. So,
No,
yeah, this is what
I'm
I was
actually not.
saying. You know, this is like, it's just,
Okay,
even
guys.
if you knew the better science, I could still get to like the intuition facts of the matter, and I could still embarrass you, even if you were like
Science
a
doesn't care
PhD.
about your
Like, where's
intuition.
Dr. Dan
Quantum
Sternhardt
mechanics
now
shows that
talk
thoroughly.
about his graph?
You're
So
gonna have
relative.
to go. You're gonna have to go one at a time. I mean, this is getting, you're just wasting air. Go one at a time. So anyway, what were you saying, Nicholas? That chemicals don't do? Nicholas,
They don't build into prebiotic and biotic systems, to be simple about it.
how do you know that?
They don't dynamically move forward and organize into those necessary structures, into reliability and all that. None of that. They just don't do any of it. That's not
Over what
chemicals
period?
do.
Over what period of time?
Well, the probability of that is 1. That's why I asked about gravity, because Leophilius, I mean, I don't think he's really necessarily using the best argument. We could dig deeper than that, but his own argument disproves himself. This is the point I'm on right now. So I don't want to get distracted from Leophilius disproving himself and then have to defend all of the universe. I'm just one man, you know? So right now I'm just saying, like, yeah, Leophilius disproved himself. By his logic, the probability is 1. Chemicals don't do that.
You said chemicals don't
The
organize
probability of what is
over.
what?
Well, they don't do anything remotely close to going in that direction.
I can let you guys talk.
But DNA does, and it's a chemical.
Well, no, I don't have anything more to talk about. I mean, this is
So
obvious.
on my side would be 1 because
the
we've seen
discussion's
chemicals do
over.
it.
Whatever Leophilius wants to say to defend himself, he can say. I don't need to respond because it's not going to refute what I just said. So I mean,
Well,
this
you didn't
debate,
really make
this
anything
little
worthy
debate I
of
just had with
refuting.
Leophilius ended. But you can have all the closing statements
Yeah,
you
because
want.
you
I don't
didn't
hear any of it.
really haven't answered any questions I asked you. You said we've never observed chemical things, but we've observed both RNA and DNA, both of which are chemicals, do these things. So the probability of these chemicals doing these things is 1. We've seen it.
Okay,
We've recreated it. in the lab.
Yeah, if anyone thinks that speaks on what I was talking about, then
well, it does.
you know, they could,
Do you not understand your own position?
What were you?
You see, Phileas, you're using semantics to pretend that you're right instead of using semantics to actually hear the person you're supposed to be listening to.
What was your?
You don't use semantics to hear.
What was your claim, Nick?
Yeah,
Nicholas?
we do. We use words to come to communion, to agreement as one. That's what words are for. And if we use semantics to dodge, let me just speak to him real quick, please. Leo, Phileas, and I deal with this a lot, and I just kind of want to settle this. I can't do anything to help how you choose to be ignorant in listening and not listen, and use semantics to dodge. So I can't move forward in discussions with you. If it's not my fault, I can't say anything more.
You can't address the points that I've brought, and I haven't addressed a single one that I've brought since I've been in here.
Okay, Nicholas, what was your point about? Okay, you said that chemicals don't do that, and I asked you over what period of time don't they do that you know about? What do you know about?
Well, I
mean, you said chemicals don't self-organize into life, and over what period of time are you saying that they don't do that?
I don't think time really makes any difference at all because they just don't do that.
So you're saying,
but let me finish my sentence real quick, please. I'm not to be rude. I know you weren't being rude, but even if they could eventually do something like that, something like 4.5 billion years, or was it 3.5 billion years? I mean, that's just not any. Oh, is it 4.1? Well, I was taught I was taught approximately 3.5 or maybe 3.8 when I was in high school. But the point is that something like that is just not remotely anything. That's like not even a drop of water in the ocean compared to how much time would be needed.
Okay, Immutable just asked you to come on our stream later on tonight. We're going to be on at 9 p.m. CST. That he wanted to talk to you. So.
I really appreciate that. It's just that I do keep really busy, so I'm not looking to be available to be tapped into the atheist community for challenging.
Right.
At least not at a super fast pace and stuff. Sometimes I might want to schedule things a week out and stuff just to pace myself.
Well, we can set it up for you to talk to him. But I mean,
you see how passionate I am and stuff, and that goes into how I choose to spend my time and all that.
Right. Okay. So we don't want to talk about abiogenesis, right?
Well, if we're doing common ancestry, then abiogenesis is necessary because you're either proposing abiogenesis or God, unless someone has a third idea. For there to be a common moment, you have to have a way that the common moment came about, or there's no common moment in the model, and you're just kind of being pretend about the model.
Well, we could pick a spot in the history.
If common ancestry is true, then abiogenesis has to be true?
No, it's either that or God. So if you're going to talk
so
about,
you're saying that if there's common ancestry, it has to be either abiogenesis or God. I just want to understand.
I don't know of a third proposition. And just for the record, God is life. So that's why we say it's not abio. Just so we can kind of. Some people try to play with those words, you know.
Okay, so you would be proposing a true dichotomy. It's either one or the other, but it's got to be one of those. Yeah. Kind of like we don't know how many stars are in the entire universe, but the number will either be odd or even.
I don't want to know which one it is, but it's like I'm proposing it. I'm saying that's all I know of.
No, I know. Yeah.
Okay. Why don't so if we grant that God created the first cells, so you can debunk common ancestry if God created the first cells. So he created prokaryotes. So we have a big ocean full of prokaryotes. Okay, and we're claiming that one of those prokaryotes were our common ancestor. Can you debunk that?
Well, let me be very honest about the scientific side of things, because I cited my brothers earlier. But this is something I have to take time to progress in while I'm also doing other things. So I'm going to see if I can find where in side chat I talked to Dr. Stern Cardinal about that graph he has with the big fat red sine wave, you know?
Okay, what was that?
And I had an issue with the underlying math of that, and him and I discussed that in side chat. And my opinion, assessment, honestly, is that I sort of kind of won that the math, he's using an imaginary math to support the way that graph evens out instead of still rising to extinction.
Are you talking
And,
about genetic entropy and neutral mutation? And you believe that you have better math than he does? Because
well, the underlying math, you know, it's like the whole swimming pool coffee mug thing. We don't have to take out all the measures and stuff to know it. So I'm going to do a video on it, and then we could discuss the math once I put out the video. And I don't know exactly how soon that'll be. Even if I can't find that in chat, I'll still pull up the graph and like do a video about what I have to say about it.
okay,
One of the if I may say one thing, as a because I want to like show that we laymen's, you know, we can use logic, reason, paying attention, intuitive intelligence, to assess the information that's given our way, and let more and more information come with time, and keep doing that, you know. And when we have the truth, we can stand. You know, laymen's can
Can I
stand
ask
our
just-
own too. We don't have to say, well, we are prisoners to the experts, even if they have a religious motive. You know, I don't mean that accusatorily.
Can
I'm
I
just
just
trying to be concise so I can let Neophilius
I just want
talk.
to ask you one really quick question.
Yeah.
Shit, I just had the question. I just fucking forgot it. I'm sorry. I really am.
Okay.
You can talk.
We have a
because I gotta
question,
think about
Nicholas.
this. Like, what?
We have a question, Nicholas, in chat. How old do you think the universe is?
Shit.
Oh, that's such a fascinating question. You see, I mean, we have the genetic
I did remember
evidence.
my question, but go ahead.
Well, the question, let's let Leophilius go, because the question will hold its own thought, right? You have it like on screen or something?
Somewhere. I'll see if I can find it. Go ahead.
Well,
No.
it's up to you, Speed. It's your show.
No, and I actually just forgot it again because I thought Asperger. So when mine will jump in.
Okay.
Okay. What?
Write it down, Leo. So how old is the universe? I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
Oh yeah, the age of the universe.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that's such a fascinating question, because the way Genesis is written really does, the very first chapter leaves open
I do
not
have
for
it this
common
time, and I did write
ancestry
it down.
of humans, but it does leave common ancestry open. But okay, let's let Leophilius.
Because I haven't written.
He wrote it down, so you can go ahead and. I mean, you're having a hell of a time answering this question. It's pretty simple.
I guess I don't have a I don't just have a conclusive answer to something I don't know, but I have a
Do you
perspective.
think it's 6,000
Would you
years
like me
old?
to not answer it, or would you like to hear my perspective? Because I don't just have an answer. The universe is this old.
Well, do you think it's 6,000 years old?
I know that humanity was created not through common ancestry 6,000 years ago.
Okay. But you think the animals could have been created 4 billion years ago, or, you know?
According to scripture, that's possible. It's just that all this scientific evidence, you know, the only possible way for that to happen is God. And so that's why abiogenesis is one of the key parts of this, but also information theory, also entropy, the actual fact of which direction these genetic systems would go if they were like, they can't go from the simple to the complex like it's proposed. And so, I mean, that's the main claim against evolution, is that, you know, I always try to specify common ancestry evolution. This claim of going from the simple to the complex in this way in such a short time is absurd. And that short time is 3.5 or 4 billion years, whatever you want to propose, that's in that ballpark that we're talking about, you know?
You think that's too short?
Far too short for what's proposed, which is not even a possibility anyway.
Okay.
Well, in the case of abiogenesis, it is not a possibility.
In a second. Leo's back in the stream. Let me see. You're in the stream twice, Leo. How the hell did that happen?
I only see him once.
There are two of them.
I know what you're talking about down in your menu.
Can I ask this question now?
Yeah, go ahead. Did you freeze again? Oh, no. I think you froze again. I don't know why we're having so much trouble with this.
Yeah, well, what happened with me was I was outside chatting on phone. I was trying to, my email is not, that email address isn't set up for that phone. So I was trying to get a link in or something. Because the phone outside, it works pretty good for this kind of thing, I think.
Oh, he's good.
Then suddenly I heard a clinkety clink in the backyard, and the back where they were doing the
Oh.
fiber optic yesterday, and a repair guy came out.
Okay. Okay, I think Leo's back with us now, but he's got the camera shut off. So ask your question, Leo. No, you're still cutting out. Oh, this is a shit show. Anyway.
I can't ask you why I seem so like that. You know, it's like I'm like a pleasant, friendly guy. You know, I do this out of love, so it's like it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I don't get a love feeling from you guys. You know, you keep attacking me and talking about embarrassing me and how little I know and I don't read my books and all of that. I just don't get a warm feeling from you or Smokey or anybody in chat. I don't quite understand.
Yeah, I see how it's easy to lump me in with all the rest of that stuff because I do have the stuff that I say.
Yeah. And, you haven't been as bad.
I haven't been what?
I don't think you've been as bad. You did call me SpeedOfPudding, I think. So that was. But
yeah, I eventually have called you SpeedOfPudding because it really seemed that you were very defensive of this whole thing that I'm focused on at the moment with godless engineer lying to people in a public forum.
Can we get a hold of whoever our internet is, see if they can boost us so that the signal goes further? Because when I'm in my room, the signal is complete shit.
Maybe he's talking to someone else. Maybe you should mute him.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think he's talking to somebody else. But I don't know how to. I don't know when to unmute him. Leo, are you with us now?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, can you?
I can hear you, but not very well. You're kind of roboting. So, hot mic. So you say, soy sauce. So you say. Anyway. Leo, I think something's wrong with your connection. It's probably not going to work out very well. But genetic engineer didn't lie. He didn't strawman. You guys strawmanned him with the Coke thing. I mean, he made a comment about Diet Coke and Coke. He was trying to make a point a while back. And he doubled down on saying DNA is not a code because I think he was thinking programming code. Do you think that's what he was saying?
Well, I mean, they were having their full discussion, right? But I'm
not entirely sure.
It is a programming code. It runs programs.
Yeah, but it's not like a program. It's not like programming. It's not like computer.
It is like computer code.
No, not really at all.
And dissimilarities, and they are both code, so they have that in common.
No, but code and computer programming code are very different. Okay.
No.
Programming language is very different from code.
Yeah, see, code, I told you I could embarrass you.
You think that embarrasses me, eh? I'm sorry, son.
You don't know it. It's just like the emperor doesn't know he's naked. I'm not gonna pretend that I have to somehow prove that the cloak's invisible, you know. But I mean, there are the debates out there and stuff. The community as a whole is working on.
You're saying that code in DNA, the 6-bit code, the codon code, is programming code, like computer programming code. You're saying that
it is a programming code.
It's a programming code.
Programming code.
How is it like?
Are literal factories.
How is it like? How is it like computer programming code? How is the DNA codon like computer programming code?
Well, it's most easily analogous to digital tape.
Digital tape.
Yeah, so the information is on tape. It's read from the tape, and then that which interprets it uses that information to perform certain functions. And that's where DNA gets amazing, because then it gets into these physical manufacturing functions. So it's actually factories run on the computers, this whole integrated system, you know? So
okay,
it's much more impressive than anything humans have done. It is a code, and in a lot of ways it's like computer code, but in the ways it's dissimilar, it even more requires a designer.
So it's like back in the days when we had actual physical paper tape, and the tape tore sometimes. Sometimes you spilled coffee on it. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So it's like that. but that's not programming code.
Well, we were discussing whether it's code or not. So I was making a comparison for how it's easy to see how it functions in the same way as code by using the tape, which is physically similar in structure to DNA in the strand.
You could make an analogy with very
CD too. I could compare it to the CD, you know. So its level of survivability is not based on the analogy. That's unrelated to the analogy itself. But there are factors of survivability of the code not being destroyed. Those do exist, yeah. Okay.
So it's like the old Turing machine or mathematical version of code where we imagined a tape basically with codons on it. Yeah. Okay. There's a good analogy there. So that's a good analogy.
Well, no, it's super deep code.
Super deep code.
Well, the program is super deep. Yes, we're seeing evidence of that so far, and that's what we're predicting for the future.
Okay, so it's super deep in that it works like code,
yeah.
It always works exactly the same way every time the DNA is read through the code.
No, it's got interrelationships. Is that what you guys are always calling? Is it metagenetics or epigenetics? These things that are happening that affect what the DNA does that are not DNA code.
Yeah, that would be epigenetics or regulation.
Yeah, so all those relationships are part of the program. All those relationships where if this, then that, if this, then that. They're not only relationships written in like simple information code, but even even the physical activities are running programs in code.
Okay, computer programs don't work like that at all. They work the same every time.
They're far more primitive is the biggest difference.
No, actually, they're pretty sophisticated. They work a hell of a lot better.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between sophisticated or like convoluted. Like they have to keep building, binary on binary, different until they get to hexadecimal, until they get to this to that. Now
that sounds like the cell. The cell is extremely inefficient and cobbled together with so many different mechanisms. We call it.
Well, it's not stacked to. It's just not the same kind of. You see, the cell appears streamlined and elegant, like someone knew in advance what they were designing. Whereas the code in computers, like by the time we get to say like the Unreal Engine and stuff, like what would it take to start over from the bottom again? It's just instead of building an intelligent architectural design, it's just got so much structure in it that it's like a solid object kind of, But it's like comparing a giant boulder, like a crystal, like the simplicity of computer code that we have, the way it's built on itself, like just with density rather than elegance, And then biological programming is super elegant. Like
no, it's the opposite.
In advance and all
it's the opposite. Biological. Okay, biological.
It's more like a building with empty spaces in it and avenues.
Okay, you gotta let me talk, friend.
I just wanted to finish my analogy real quick. Was all. Yeah, I'll let you talk.
Okay, biological code is messy. There are myriad systems involved that happen stochastically, or as you guys like to say, randomly, based on how hot it is. I mean, if you cool a cell off, it's going to behave very differently. There are things that just don't work. There are layers and layers of systems that we're finding every day that make absolutely no sense. Whereas programming code, a programming language is designed with elegance. It's simple. It's got a straightforward syntax to it that always works. When you say if A, then B, B always happens when A happens. There's never a failure, okay? Biological code is nothing like that. That's why we programmers, like genetic engineer, don't like you to compare it to programming code because it's nothing like that. You could not create a programming language that would perfectly simulate a living cell. You could simulate it, but that's all you could do. You couldn't accurately do everything. There's no way to do that. You'd have to make it fail over and over again. So it has to be very fuzzy, and it has to work statistically. And that isn't what programming languages do. So that's why genetic engineer was kind of down on you guys saying that it was programming code. And that's where he would say it's not a code. And I would defend him saying that because
he had the chance to face it head on and he didn't. So
yeah, and computer
I mean, he has to sort of really actually address it.
Well, he didn't really.
I hear where you're coming from. I just need to say real quick. I consider that a complete misrepresentation.
Misrepresentation.
Obviously, so the things that you were just saying about the code, like you call it messy because it has all these like intricate things going on, and it's not exacting, but that's because it's part of like sophisticated, greater systems, you know. And it's integrated into those, and you're trying to use like the fact that it's so deep and so superior and so much more impressive. You're trying to use that fact against it, and it doesn't actually work. You're just using rhetoric about it.
No, that's the way it works. It works by.
I understand you're describing it with a word like messy.
It really works. It's messy. It's very messy.
Well, let me give an example of why it's not messy, right?
Have you ever heard of cancer?
Can I give an example of why it's not messy, please?
Go ahead. As long as you shut the hell up when I'm talking, okay?
What?
Is that fair? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try. I mean, I want to be cordial, but I also like came here based on what I said, you know, and all that. So, yeah. Though, like for instance, it's not messy because, like, when a giraffe is born, and you know, there's other animals, but I'm pretty sure this is correct about a giraffe. When a giraffe is born, it's never walked, but it already has enough intuitive programming, instinctual, I guess would be the better word for it in this case, for the context that I'm saying it from, instinctual programming in its brain and enough muscle memory and stuff to hold up its own body weight and know how to do it and walk and all that. And there's a level of precision required in thoughts for that, and they're required in nervous system and throughout the whole body for that. For those precisions, there's a level of precision, we'll focus on the brain, required in the information system of the giraffe's brain. There's enough precision. You have to have the level of precision in the physical to have that exact result. You have to have the level of precision in genetic code to guarantee through this embryonic and fetal and early childhood within the womb process that when it comes out, it's already able to walk. You get these exponential increases in how much specified complexity is required the whole time. Yeah, until you finally get to the genetics, and then you're trying to claim that it's a mess when it gets this like incredibly awesome result.
Okay, it's a mess because giraffes are stillborn. About 20% of the zygotes that the giraffe that become fertilized die before they even come.
We believe in genetic entropy.
Okay, I'm talking. Okay, so things don't exactly work all the time. It's very fuzzy. And some of the giraffes end up, well, let's talk humans, end up with cancer.
Clarifying question.
Go ahead.
Because I just don't know. I thought when you were saying it was messy, you were talking about like those cellular processes and how they can be.
Yeah, they're messy. They're messy.
That's different than talking about a mess of failed results. So I just want you to be consistent with what you're saying, so we're having a fair discussion.
The two things are identical. The failed results are because sometimes the mess is too messy, and it statistically doesn't work, and then the cell dies. Okay. Sometimes it works.
I'm not okay with it. I think this is a dishonest sort of thing, but that's okay. I'll keep participating. That's fine.
Dishonest in what way? That's the way biology works. You understand?
I think you did switch how you were using the words, and instead of just like kind of owning up to it, you started trying to connect them in ways they don't connect.
No, it's the same word.
It
connects. Okay.
Yeah, but the messiness we're talking about of how the cells function in a messy way is not a measure. It's not related to failures. Like that's part of how
it is related to failure. It is related.
Okay, I do see how it is in your model. Yeah. Okay. That's why I asked well, your model of
we could empirically see this. We could look at it.
I mean, from your lens of interpreting the evidence, I see how it makes sense, and that's why I asked clarifying questions. So
do you know why your fingers aren't stuck together?
Why am I thinking in context of the messiness you were just talking about?
They're separate. They're separate because cells died in between your fingers. Those cells died. Okay.
Yeah, but there was a program that had them die.
There's
a program that had them die. That's why me and you both have separated fingers, is because of programming.
But they're not the same fingers. Okay. So the program did not work exactly the same. Is that beautiful? If I wrote a computer program like that, it would fail.
I know. I mean, we can't do the beauty that God can do. We can't do that.
The beauty that God, okay, you mean you want the IRS to have a program that calculates your taxes a little bit this way, a little bit that way? Is that all you think programs?
No, we don't have to go into the IRS. We were just right there talking directly about what we were talking about. We don't need an analogy. We had the real thing. We were just talking about it.
Right. Okay.
We both have that program that ran to give us separate fingers, but we're both like different. It's really cool.
And it worked very differently for both of our hands. Okay, very, very differently, very messy, and that messiness is related to death.
Well, let's each put our hand in front of the camera and we'll ask the audience, how much is it different and how much is it similar? Do the differences mean the similarities aren't there? But we do have the similarities. You know what I mean? Let's not like be silly about how we discuss this, you know?
Sure, so they're similar, but I have a relative who has web fingers because it didn't work. Okay.
But yeah, I do catch what you're saying about the messiness.
If his heart had done that, he would have been stillborn. He would have died. Okay. So it's messy. It's not like a computer program. You understand? Computer programs run the same way every time you run them. They do not mutate themselves. I'm sorry, guys, in the chat. I can't. I'm engaged.
Well, computer programs do mutate when we do updates and things like that, and patches and stuff.
Mutation. We update them. We specifically design them to do what they do.
Yeah, no, I don't mean to make a false comparison. I just mean to say that there is some quality of that to it, because there are dissimilarities. I don't see how talking about the dissimilarities changes the fact that DNA is the more impressive code and proves God.
Okay,
there are dissimilarities, yeah, for sure. And what you're saying about it not being a code because it's messy and that results in things like stillborns, like we're not in the ideal where the program is running in its perfection, and we know about I'm not saying the second law of thermodynamics, but I'm talking about entropy in any system that has dissipation. So if we have the dissipation of deleterious mutations through the system of DNA that increases with time, then even if you have even the ones that survive still have increasing deleterious until finally the entire extinction happens.
Can you explain? We have a question on the screen.
Nicholas, give the SI. What does SI stand for?
I don't know.
Because I am more I'm more like logic and comprehension oriented than I am memorizing vocabulary oriented and stuff. And I put a lot of that energy into translating the Bible and stuff like that.
I know you do. That's why you should stay out of genetics, because you clearly don't know what you're doing.
Well, like I said, I'm kind of representing the lay people, we have this much to stand on. His question's here. I'll finish reading it. SI unit for entropy. Maybe that's an energy unit referring to specifically the second law.
I think he was asking.
Explain how genetic systems undergo entropy.
That's the international system of measurement.
Only relates to thermodynamics. Okay, well, the idea that entropy only relates to thermodynamics is a misconception because it's a statistical phenomenon in the math.
I would agree.
I can pull up the link to that video. I don't know if I've shared it with Leo Filius before. I've shared it with some people before.
International. SI for
standard. Should we just watch this video on entropy and see what we think about it? It's only like 5 or 6 minutes.
No.
Okay.
I think that would be a sideline. Anyway, so cells are messy, so you understand why it's not like a programming language, because programming languages always work the same every time until we
we have the entire factory and interconnected system. So what you actually have are smaller systems of programming language to a greater total system, and there's changes in the system and stuff. And it's not the same way of doing it as like patches and things like that, but it's analogous in the ways that it is analogous. And so I just don't see how this is.
Yeah, it's analogous. You know, you can make comparisons. We can talk about.
And then DNA is the more impressive one that more proves a designer than computers do.
Do you think it's analogous to? It's analogous to say programming language like JavaScript or C++?
Analogous to
C++.
I think the language works on a much more. Oh, it's actually 15 minutes, the video. So yeah, we don't want to do that. I think the language works on a much more sophisticated, elegant, and holistic level than a simple human programming language. So once you get to the point of the language, I'm
giving up on my camera.
Similarity.
My camera is messing my head up. Keeps fuzzing.
Okay, well, I'll go off camera too. I mostly was on camera just because it's like if I was going to do such a bold challenge and be talking like I was when I first came in here, I thought it was fair to like show my face.
That's driving me crazy.
People can read faces, so it's fair to show your face. You know.
It is sometimes. Okay, so it's not like C++. It's not like a programming language. We can make an analogy with simple tape reading systems, which are idealized programs that we talk about in CSI 101, mathematical programming. We can make the analogy, that's fine. But so what? So we can make an analogy. What does that mean?
Well, DNA is actually the idealized one. And it's like
no. It's
yeah,
not.
it is. You're
No,
just
no,
ignoring the depth of it, and the depth of intelligence and wisdom. You know, I mean, the fear of God's the beginning of wisdom. So maybe it's just a little too like elegant and intuitive and sophisticated and deep for it because you don't have that beginning of wisdom. But
So you think it's too deep for a geneticist? Or a molecular
well, I mean, you're not connecting the interrelationship, like like the interrelationships between and politics and economies, right? There's interrelationships between all these different things going on in the cell, but they don't result in like we're afraid of the end of the world and people are manipulating and stuff. It's like it results in these beautiful bio machines that we get to live in. So,
beautiful bio machines.
Yeah, I'm comparing the greater systems of the entirety of what's going on in the cell to like an idealized political globe, like a utopia, you know?
But it's not ideal. It's not ideal. People die every day. They call me Lord Voldemort and claim that I look like I'm on my deathbed.
No, I'm saying that what's going on in the cell is ideal.
No, it isn't. It isn't ideal at all. That's why cells die every day. They die.
That's fine. That's the purpose of cells, is to die. They're for us. They're not for themselves.
Cells are for us. They're not for themselves. But they die. And then we die. And what is that for? I guess you probably...
I'm never going to die. My body will die, but I'm not my body. I was a different person, and that person died.
I am so sorry that you're not going to be disappointed when you die because you're not going to know anything when you die. But anyway, so I don't think we're going to go much further with this. We're all over the place. So anyway, we've established that cells are not ideal. They're not like programming languages. I think genetic engineer was perfectly entitled to push back on you the way he did. I think I will defend his position now. After talking to you, I understand why he would not yield on the code thing. But I think I didn't see him do that during the debate. Maybe he did. I don't know. Okay, so questions. We'll take questions from chat right now. But you guys got to ask them again so I can pop them up. And then we're going to...
I don't agree with speed of sound summary, by the way, for the record.
Oh, really? I thought for sure you would agree with me, Nick. Anyway, let's see. Anybody got a question? Links don't show up in YouTube if you aren't a mod. What? Who wants a link? Or who wants a wrench? Does somebody want to rent?
I mean, if if people want to like poke and prod me while I'm here, ask me questions, then I'm down to do that. I do want to like be available at
Okay.
times. But if that part of it's over, then I'd like to just like go on with my day and rest and maybe take off if that's
Yeah,
okay.
genetic engineer was appalled with the lack of honesty of what John Maddox did. I'm appalled with John Maddox. You guys are brothers. You call each other brother, and when you get together, you have a whole cult feeling to you. Let's see. We have a question. Nick,
Yeah, and actually, you know how I said I see how you could like sort of group me together with them. Yeah, there's a difference in like I don't approve of everything they do, but I'll take responsibility for everything they do. We're brothers in Christ, and
can you put the link in private chat?
in private chat, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll put it in.
Oh, of course, I probably couldn't post it because I wasn't a mod, huh?
So we have a question, molecular alchemy. How do DNA repair processes contribute to genetic entropy?
Well, they slow it down, of course,
Oh.
because when I speak of genetic entropy, I'm speaking of
God,
errors entering the system. Errors weaken the amount of like informational work the system can do. The entropy comes in when the cell can no longer do certain works because the code no longer provides the necessary information. So you have less work. And then that's even in the ones that survive and reproduce and don't go extinct, even in those ones, that's spreading throughout the system and dissipating, just like heat dissipates in a thermodynamic system. And so that dissipation and the math involved in that is what they call entropy. Because the second law of thermodynamics is not simply entropy exists. And that's what, it's like entropy is a detail within the second law of thermodynamics. So it's a conflation to just say entropy is the second law of thermodynamics. But so the repair processes slow that down because there's less mistakes spreading through the system.
I've been calling him genetic engineer this whole time, haven't I?
I don't know if the whole time, but once just now you did. And
okay.
I've been interrupting to try to have the functional discussion that I came here to have, or I say discussion, but I came here to kind of attack, I admit it. And I didn't want to interrupt for that also.
Yeah.
On something.
Immutable is trying to put me in a home, so.
I thought you guys aren't family like that. You're not a cult.
Yeah, he's still trying to put me in a home, though. Let's see. Okay, do you know what a microstate is?
Well, a state is the way that things are. So a microstate would be a micro version of that. So that's the best I can do. But the answer is no, as far as I've never learned the definition. Yeah.
Okay, the discussion about pudding with Anthony Maurice. We were talking.
Oh, yeah, so that makes perfect sense. Like the way things are in that system so that an abiogenesis could happen is like the microstate.
Yeah, there would be innumerable microstates. There would be different states for the system. It wouldn't be all one big pudding. It wouldn't be homogeneous. So if you want to study abiogenesis,
yeah, because it's like that lucky spot that forms something that can sustain and then expand within its spot and maybe jump out of that spot to bridge to other spots, and then that's enough to get started. So
right.
I think I'm the same way that I understand why I don't believe in the concept. I think I understand why I would believe in it if I did.
Okay. Let's see, we got another question. With the hundreds of DNA nuclear-based mutants present within the original created kind, or were they created after the fall?
I don't know what those exact mutations are or what data there is regarding the likelihood of whether they would have been originally there or after the fall. With how many circumstantial usings or not usings of genes there are, there's kind of this really fun, it's almost more like a riddle than a puzzle at this point, because you have to like riddle like, well, what's this really, like looking a little bit into the epigenetics is the correct word for what I'm talking about, right? Into the epigenetics to see like, yeah, so I mean, sometimes, I mean, do we even know what's mutations in every case, or could we find a surprise function for some things? I mean, I don't know exactly. But I can't answer that question specifically.
Okay, let's see. Why did I end up losing my stream? I'm way the hell behind. Let's see. Okay. Have we already done this one? There are mutants.
No, something somewhat similar to it. Those mutants are variations of nucleotides that are modified from basic and stochastic chemical reactions.
That's where the mutants come.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't pretend to know that detail either. And the reason I elaborated a little more last time was I think this is sort of the time to see, like, for me to sort of put out there what my perspective is, you know? So when I can't answer the question, I'm trying to still give some insight into my perspective, you know? Wow.
Is common descent incompatible with Christianity?
Yes.
Why?
Because Adam is formed from the dust of the earth.
Why does it have to be that way?
The way it is written, that is really what's written. You see, the part that I say could be interpreted differently is before that part comes up. But I don't see any justification to interpret the part about Adam. Yeah, the reason it has to be that way is God did something really special for humanity, you know? So if we do have some kind of, you know, if species, if each animal coming forth after its kind refers to, you know, the process of evolution, I mean, that could make perfect sense. And it says at the end of the 7 days that he had created the heaven and the earth, that is the sky and the land, and all the host of them. Well, that includes me, but I wasn't there. So, but then it's after that when he starts specifically talking about Adam and doing this special thing to make mankind. And the symbolism, the spiritual depth of that, God expresses his symbolism not in fictions, but in the reality that he forges. He has full quantum access. So anything that is quantumly possible in any way, he can facilitate things to occur in that way.
So why didn't he do it through common descent? And what if DNA is analogous to code or programming code? Then why is not what was written analogous to what happened, to what actually happened? Why couldn't it be common descent? Why couldn't man have been created by God from the beginning through common descent? Why is it incompatible?
Because we're described the intimate events of the making of Adam and Eve and in the garden.
It could have been an analogy, a metaphor.
Well, there is symbolism in there, but symbolism of something that happened through reality. This is our history. This is what all of the importance of, you see, like, this is our time of being seeds so that we will be what we will be in the eternal.
I don't see why that wouldn't work either way.
Well, something like that theoretically could be argued to work either way, but this is our real history. This is the foundation of understanding our relationship with the deepest acts of the universe, with God himself. Like, our context is the garden before Christ, the fall, you know, and then we have Christ for a new context after him.
So how many Christians do you think would agree with you? What percentage?
Of Christians?
Yeah, in the world, what percentage of Christians would agree that that had to be literal, that it wasn't possible for evolution?
Well, for me, this becomes a bit of a red herring if we start looking at statistics, because we have the problem of, like, you know, people with African descent who live in China saying that they're Scotsmen, right? So it's like, I can get accused of no true Scotsman fallacy, but that's not really where I'm trying to go with this.
I'm just asking you to estimate what percentage of Christians you think would agree with you. I have no idea. I haven't looked at the stats on that. Maybe somebody.
Well, I have no idea, because there's no way to statistically measure how many Christians there are, and there's no way to statistically verify if you're counting a Christian or not. You can personally verify it, but you can't verify it as a matter of a large-scale public record. You know, it would have to be public within community that can sort of test the witnesses and all that.
Okay, I think I think you're in the minority, is what I think. I think you run maybe around 5% or less of Christians believe in the literal had to be Adam and Eve in the garden, had to be created from dust.
Yeah, I'm extremely skeptical of a number like that. And if we're talking about real Christians,
well, okay, you just entered the no true Scotsman that you didn't want to do.
That's why I described earlier, like people of African descent who live in China saying they're Scotsmen, right? Because Christianity means slave to Christ. And so I think we can both see it. There's plenty of people who call themselves Christians who do not live as slaves to Christ.
See, the thing we're wondering is why you do all this science denial and why you jump all through all of these hoops when you could just grant that God could have done the universe any damn way he wanted and come up with exactly where we're at.
Yeah, that's what you were asking me about earlier. And I sort of, I got to the point of my being born again. And then I sort of stopped, but we're supposed to get to this point about why I hold my perspective on this. So I was open on this for a long time, but then the grip of some of the facts regarding the science really pulled me, to the scientific conclusion. So that was really so the difference between why I'm having definitely a young Earth perspective is what I'm proposing, and why I say evolutionism is definitely impossible without a God, and abiogenesis is impossible because if a God did it, it's not abiogenesis. But in essence, it could be possible. It would just be theobiogenesis, I guess, And so those would be possible. We have all this evidence of the flood, for instance, and we know that a natural process without a God, chemicals cannot abiogenesis. And we know that the bioinformation systems, in order to be increasing in complexity, would have to be very, very specifically designed to do so. And I get what your perspective is, Speed, that it's not that they have to be designed to do so, because the only ones that survived were the ones that did so some. But they can actually survive without becoming more complex. It's just the ones that break apart die, and the ones that don't break apart don't die. We already discussed our perspectives on how long it would take if time could do it. I don't think time can do it. But
and you figured all that out.
It's the science that brought me more here, though. Yeah.
You figured that all out when you were 33, or a couple of years ago, like about 6 years ago?
No, 33 was the moment that deception and the self-doubts of Satan whispering in my ear went away, so that I could trust my own self-honesty and truth could flow freely through me, and my relationship was so intimate with Christ, the truth, the one true God. So as I was born into being different. That's what happened when I was 33. But the process of eventually, I had to assess a lot of things going on with Christianity and with the doctrine and with what the Bible said. And I mean, I was a busy bee. And then, so eventually I had some time and came across the places to, I was slowly assessing different perspectives on the science of all this and all that. And, sometimes it's good to let some years accumulate some information and understanding and get to a place where you can assess the things. But then, getting into the actual scientific data, for instance, we've been talking about it, the code, the factories, the integrated, idealized, socio system. And I know it's not literally socio, but.
So where did you get the scientific data from? What were your sources?
The scientific data from, I guess, mainly it's evolutionary biologists, I guess, is the general umbrella term that's generally being used for the scientists who are putting out this data.
So you read their papers and their textbooks and you came to the conclusion that they were wrong about evolution?
Well, I don't want to pretend any more of a detailed analysis than what I've done. So just like I haven't measured my next door neighbor's swimming pool either, but I know that it's bigger than, the coffee mug that's over on my table right over there by a long shot.
You just know without doing the work, without doing the studying and learning.
Well, it's like I understand how a combustion engine works. I understand how manufacturing works. I have a lot of insights into like geopolitical dimensions and how things like propaganda and what we think and how we talk to each other, and that all interrelates to affect, the future of humanity and stuff.
Okay. I'm guessing that you listen to Standing for Truth and Ramat and Dr. Nathaniel Jensen and those people, and that's where you got your opinions of science, or your opinions about the science, and you haven't actually studied the science. But we have. Okay, the people on this channel have studied the science, and we disagree with you. But we have another question. If DNA repair mechanisms, can you read that?
Yeah, if DNA repair enzymes, enzymes are usually catalysts, right?
Yep.
If DNA repair enzymes, but then like catalyst sounds so abstract, but really it's like so physically happening. It's pretty cool. If DNA repair enzymes decrease genetic entropy, how do they accomplish this task specifically, and how efficient are they?
Okay, you don't know the answer to that question.
I have some answer to that because I have seen some video demonstrations of how they do the repair specifically, but yeah, I don't have the vocabulary terms to describe the physical process of the hands-on repairing happening. But I mean, the way it like rides along, you can almost call it like the zipper of the DNA or something. I'm very much a layman, right? But it like rides along there and does its job. It's really cool. And then how efficient are they? I mean, they're incredibly efficient, I think, from my experience on a statistical kind of basis. But we're dealing with such huge numbers, and then we know how like 1 penny a day, 2 pennies the next day, 4 pennies the next day, right? Eventually, in not too long a time, you're paying someone $1 million. You should have made the other deal. So we kind of get that. It's like it's super. Well, it's not necessarily doubling all the time, but it can increase if the repair mechanisms, So it's not a perfect analogy, but there's some kind of like the way it stacks up with time, even though they're incredibly efficient. When we do the overall math, it still makes this difference. And the math is more based on direct observations of genetic results than it is of assessing genetic mechanisms as far as the entropy that John Sanford proposes.
What math is that?
The math, it regards how many mutations accumulate.
That's not math. That's like empirical.
Yeah, you take the empirical data and you process it through the math of what will progress over time. I mean, the relationship of quantities over functions would be a mathematical discussion.
But you're just trusting John Sanford to do that math for you because you haven't done it yourself, right?
Well, I've seen the math that he's done, and so
if
you're going to refute him or something, but I also seeing the physical structures and videos and stuff like that. And
yeah, the videos are
having a body myself and having the understanding of the theories and bringing all of it together. And, it's like I can look, like I look over here to my left and I'm just seeing like so much detail and not describing it to you. I mean, do you see what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to pretend to know less than I do because I'm not the person who's trained to articulate it.
That is the physical universe you're looking at. That's the physics that we believe created all of this, and that's why you're seeing so much detail. I appreciate that too. In fact, that is spirituality for me, is trying to encompass the whole of the universe in the whole of my life, my body, biology, what is happening in each cell of every leaf. That's, to me, is where I connect with spirituality. Anyway, there's
Okay.
another question on epigenetics. You said earlier in the stream that epigenetics was another code. And Molecular Alchemy wants to know if you think that epigenetic processes were present in the earliest cells, the first cells or the simplest cells.
Epigenetic processes. I mean, if I was to think along your guys' lines, it seems intuitive to me that epigenetics would precede genetics, or genetics would form within a context that is by nature includes some kind of epigenetic component, which would be the cell itself, you know? But I would like to address what you were just saying, like have kind of good friendly conversation, because you were just talking about how you like, I understand how fascinating it is, you know, like evolutionism, abiogenesis, imagining how it could happen and all that. It's really cool and all that. And I mean, I do totally understand that side of it. I don't really, that's why I mentioned the math a lot. And even though I can't like, you know, I mean, I do want to get the data and mathematically model it. And I don't know how many years it would take me to like do some cool stuff with that. So I do want to actually like get into there. I just don't want to be like slowed down, expected to like win every debate along the way or something. I just want to do some mathematical modeling, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
But so far I have like, you know, with what I have intuitively and stuff, yeah, but what you were talking about, so I understand a lot of what's cool about your guys' perspective and stuff, and I don't want to be a straw manning. I really honestly think that the math and the necessities for a designer and stuff are as obvious as I say they are. I'm just being honest there.
Okay, but you look at the videos and those videos of DNA being repaired and being duplicated, and you really like that, right? You appreciate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That same thing we appreciate. That's chemistry. That's chemistry happening before your eyes. Well,
some of
actually,
the physical processes and not chemical processes.
Hang on a second. I said something wrong. That is how we depict chemistry. That's how we depict the details of what we learn about chemistry. Those videos.
Oh yeah, I understand that the actual geometric scopes and stuff might not be identical because they're displaying a model.
And it's a lot messier. You wouldn't be able to see anything. It would look like a big pile of mud.
Oh yeah, because there'd be a bunch of other things happening in the way and stuff, and that's what I mean. Like the depth of it supports my side, in my opinion. I wouldn't call. I mean, it's not a mess. It's a cacophony, symphony at the same time. It's like at the same time as being a cacophony, it's also a symphony. As part of a greater symphony. That's part of a greater symphony. I mean, it's impressive stuff.
Okay. Let's see. Another question. Do molecules in prebiotic systems have intrinsic reactivity in the context of abiotic? I'm not even sure if I understand that, immutable.
See if I do. Do molecules in prebiotic systems have intrinsic? Okay, I'm not as good with my definitions of intrinsic and extrinsic as I should be.
Okay.
Because intrinsic, it's not the exact same thing as objective, is it? I'm just going to look up the word intrinsic real quick because that's just a belonging naturally essential. Okay, so it's
with
not
it.
the exact same as. I need that thing back on screen again.
Okay, do molecules.
Or actually, I could find it. Okay. Do molecules in prebiotic systems have intrinsic reactivity in the context of abiogenesis? Well, I don't believe that any of that's possible, so I don't want to like really keep entertaining questions.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering why you would. I was wondering why
well,
you
it
would.
might be a question for you, but like I said, I mean, if you guys want to pick my brain while I'm here, then I'm down to be available while I am, but I'm also down to move on with my day.
Okay. Question. If all the evidence pointed toward evolution to describe diversity, would you reevaluate your interpretation, or would the Bible still outweigh that for you?
The Bible definitely outweighs, but since it says in the 7 days he made all the host of the earth and describes it as bringing animals forth after their kind, the Bible is not necessarily going to be incompatible with a large amount of evolution. Now, the Bible does talk about like fish being separate from fowl, being separate from four-footed beasts. So we do not have that single cellular one common ancestry. But to a large extent, evolution could exist according to the Bible. And yeah, I definitely could reevaluate if if I was approached with stricter scientific standards and as far as how the question was addressed, so that I was trusted to build on the science myself rather than like having what's built on the science pushed on me and said it is science, then we could have a much more like functional discussion, But when you
Yeah.
want to skip letting me assess the science and go straight to like sort of therefore this, and admittedly, I'm kind of doing that now, but I'm not claiming to be like the science explainer. Like I say, I'm representing the layman here. I'm in this context.
Okay. I'm wondering about this. This isn't exactly a question. Puts your faith on a fragile foundation too. Seems your faith would be more enduring if it embraces the naturalistic aspects of reality. I think he meant.
Yeah, I think that I addressed in the previous question. So I mean, basically in context of this discussion, but I probably hadn't answered that yet when Soyuse asked this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll leave it at that, and they're for you to ask something again if they like or whatever.
Okay, guys, I'm so far behind on chat, and it's getting a little late. So I think we'll quit messing with you on questions. You're not in the position to answer any of these questions. You understand that, right? You need to know. You can't be answered. It's not
answering these questions. Like I'm not.
It's not fair of us to be asking you questions about genetics and molecular biology. Do you agree?
No, it's fair to be asking so I can like express what perspective I'm coming from.
But you have no background in it, so why would you have a perspective?
Well, I mean, if people want to, why would I have a perspective? Because, I mean, I have spent, like, hours being educated on this stuff. So, I mean, what we call one kind of background or another kind of background, it's not like I have nothing. It's like you can talk to any Christian about Christianity, but that's not the same as talking to someone who's, like, really doing their due diligence and paying attention. But, like, you can have all sorts of fair discussions with all sorts of people, yeah. Especially if they're reasonable and logical and not in some kind of weird like denial place,
Yeah, but why like when Dr. Dan Stern Cardinal is on Standing for Truth's channel, why did John Maddox and Standing for Truth insist they know more than him when they know that he teaches thousands of students evolutionary biology and genetics and he has actually got a PhD in it? Why do they think they know more than him? Why do you think that is?
I don't know if it's a matter of knowing more by quantity. I think it's a matter of
so it's not about quantity, eh?
It's a matter of presenting the correct. It's a matter of presenting the more logical, plausible, and probable assessments of the same evidence.
But you don't have the same evidence if you haven't done the same studying, if you haven't put in the same work, you haven't read the same textbooks. If you don't have a PhD, you don't have the same evidence. You're not looking at it in the same way. You don't know what I know about molecular biology.
Are you talking about me now, or logic, or LPP and SFT? Because
I'm asking about them because I've never heard you do it to Dr. Dan, but I've heard them do it, and I'm just wondering why they think that, or why you think that they are entitled to tell him that he doesn't know anything about evolution.
Because he's going with absurd result. He's coming to for absurd reasons, and so there's nothing about his credentials that changes the absurdity that's going on.
So the absurdity. Why? Where did you get your understanding of what's absurd and what's not?
Well, I mean, my best analogy, like, because we've been going into discussing it a lot, but my best analogy is still that swimming pool. I mean, if someone who works on swimming pools all the time came in here and tried to tell me, well, you've never tape measured that swimming pool. I'm telling you the coffee mug is bigger than it. I mean, of course, they wouldn't do that because it's absurd. And that's kind of what I'm saying. Like the absurdity, it's Dr. Stern Cardinal's own fault because he's being absurd.
But a 5-year-old could tell the difference between the size of a coffee cup and a swimming pool, right?
Yes.
So you're telling me that your understanding of science is that of a 5-year-old?
Well, we're talking about the things of creation, the things of God. So relative to God, I am like a 5-year-old. Yeah. I
So
mean,
you
the analogy was not to explain who I am. The analogy is to explain how awareness, full awareness and intuition, like in this case, the awareness comes from my eyes, and it's actually very sophisticated what's going on with my eyes. Well, I mean, yeah, so that's kind of part of the analogy. It's not really minimizing anything. It's just saying that my analogy is that you're saying because I'm not going there and tape measuring it and stuff like someone else has, that I should not even be talking about it. And I mean, if you don't want to listen, that's fine. But I'll talk as I please. I think it's fair for me to talk. Not to
but
be
I mean,
accusatory. Not to be accusatory. I'm having trouble saying this just right.
okay. Like when you said you were going to embarrass me, I was embarrassed for all of you because we look at what your grasp, what Standing's grasp, and what John Maddox's grasp is of the science and how many mistakes they make and how little they know. And we are embarrassed for you guys because you so blatantly believe that you know what's absurd and what's not absurd, what works and what doesn't work. And this is embarrassing for us to watch you struggle.
And I appreciate Smokey coming in with this comment. This is the right moment for it because, yeah, we have these PhDs that disagree with you, Pudding. You never tell us why. And yeah, I mean, we're waiting for you to do for someone to do a complete refutation of our Dr. Tour interview. That's what we're waiting for.
Well, why don't you listen to our criticisms of John Maddox and Standing for Truth? We do a ton of it. I mean, and you guys never, none of those. Well, Standing for Truth comes on.
Well, we watched the one about Godless Engineers video, and it didn't do you any favors. But no, seriously, I mean, we're working as a team with our body, like I said, and Dr. Tour is part of our body in Christ, and we would like you guys to point by point refute his video rather than like trying to pick us as low-hanging fruit. I mean, we're doing our best to bring Dr. Tour to you so that you can refute him if you want. This is the best we can do. We're only us. We're not Dr. Tour, but we did what we can.
He said even less than Standing for Truth.
Okay, well then just show that, prove that in a way. Like logical, plausible, probable proved Godless Engineer a fool. Now prove Dr. Tour a fool, or prove logical, plausible, probable a fool, But you can't do it because they're not.
I prove him a fool every day. Don't you watch my videos? I suppose you. I mean, he embarrasses himself at every turn. Anyway, we're not going to get anywhere here. So,
that's for sure.
So, do you feel a strong spirituality every day? Do you feel strongly centered and at peace on a daily basis?
Yeah, peace. I do. I feel peace in every moment, even when it seems I'm like nervous and this and that. Even when I was in the river underwater, never experienced that before and wasn't certain if I would live, I was still at peace, So, yeah.
Tell me about the river. I haven't heard this story.
Oh, I was a whitewater guide for a while, and that was right after I was reborn, and
God tried to drown you right after you were reborn.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been a bit of a baptism ceremony. I didn't have like a real kind of church. I did have one of my very dear brothers baptize me in a proper ceremony later on. But yeah, and I had ego all my life, which had blocked my ability to just like be in tune with what's going on around me. So before that, I never could have even tried to be a whitewater guide. And I was like, a buddy of mine wanted me to try to be a whitewater guide, and I was just like, well, okay, I'll try. I mean, I could fail. I could not be good enough and just stop doing it. Whatever, we'll see. And so I just jumped in and did my best, and like to not have ego there and to just have silence and be like one with the river and then learning the river. And it related to music stuff I'd done in the past where you talk to the audience, because I'd have to talk to the guests on the boat and tell them when to paddle and stuff. And there's a lot of musical and like intuition with the river and like feeling it with your paddle and all that as you're steering the boat. And then also the river will never like lie to you. It'll never compromise with you. It'll never be condescending and like pretend you're kind of right or something when you're not. The river is just like brutally honest. And so there's a lot that I learned from that experience doing my best with a whitewater guide, as a whitewater guide, which was very short-lived and a small thing. And there were a few cool adventure stories, but yeah, I wouldn't even want to do that again because I have too much purpose now. I wouldn't want to be risking my life and spending my energy in that when, but at the time I had nothing to live for yet. So
Okay, so you know I'm an atheist. I have
yeah.
I had the same moment happen to me about 13 years ago, where I lost ego and came into this sort of long plane of pure peace with myself. And I have that kind of on a daily basis. And sometimes it slips away when I get a little moment of anger or when something takes me away or I become obsessed. But I know how to let myself go and embrace I don't know, I call it the universe. And I had that same feeling. So I had the same, when you were talking to Smokey Sane on your channel about spirituality and some other things, and you were playing a video of some atheist that you were talking to, and you were expressing some things. I have those same feelings. How do you account for that?
How do I
How do you account for that?
Counter.
How do you account?
Okay,
Yeah.
how do I account for that? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the difference between you and me is obvious, and my foundation is in Christ, and so there's no comparison.
No comparison to what? What are you comparing?
Well, what I mean is like a breakdown of ego restrictions and freedom from certain ego restrictions is definitely something that we'll feel in any circumstance in which it happens. But I'm not here to like promote ego death or something. I'm here to promote the Christ who is on the cross, who is the truth. You know, and so my foundation is in that, and you never put your foundation in that, so there's just not a comparison. I mean,
don't think there's any difference between the two. All you have to do is basically give yourself up to something outside of yourself. It doesn't matter what the hell it is. That's why belief in dogma is so problematic to me.
do you remember how I said it's not about feelings? Like, yeah, the part that we felt we might have in common, but the part that matters is not about feelings.
So you don't care how you feel every day, how you behave.
I mean, the feelings went away after the feelings went away after 3 weeks. You asked me if I feel peace. It's not even fair to say I feel peace. It's not a sensation. It's more like a lack of negative feelings, but I have peace at every moment. But you know, it's just like, yeah, that feeling of freedom from certain ego restrictions. Like I say, it's not about feelings, and it's not about I mean, obviously, Christ sets us free from a lot of the devil if we're saved by him. I'm not saying there's no other ego restrictions that people, I'm not saying people can't have freedoms from some ego restrictions without Christ. But
yeah, but I think our experience is the same. Experientially and morally, I believe we're the same. And I'm an atheist and you're not. You have these beliefs.
Yeah, there's an aspect of our experience that has similarity to it. So I won't deny that. But the important part is all in Christ. And so
I related
we're on a red herring here.
I related to you completely. I related to the way you were talking about it. And I don't have any belief. I'm completely
because it was like a focus in on the whole freedom from ego limitations part. And I agree, we do have that in common. You experienced a freedom from some ego limitations, but you didn't experience them as a result of Christ setting you free and your foundation being Christ. So
right, because that's a belief. That's the opposite of faith.
You say it's a belief, it's the opposite of faith?
Yep. Yeah, when you believe something or you believe some dogma, you're clinging to it. Like if you insist that God is like you're made in God's image, then I believe you're making God in your image, and in that way you're bringing your ego back into it. I don't do that. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Zen Buddhist. So I don't do that part where I insist that the universe conform to my ego. Therefore, I don't have that stumbling block. And I think belief gives you that stumbling block. Maybe that's why you don't feel it as intensely in your life as I do.
Well, we have it that we conform to Christ. So we have to, we only gain our life in Christ if we first lose our life. And so I just don't really relate to what you were
Yeah, when you
saying.
say gain your life by losing your life, that I related to heavily because I lost my life entirely. And I gained my life in the process. And my entire life changed. It transformed. And I have been on this journey of I don't know how to describe it other than that I'm okay. I'm done. I don't have any fights. I don't have any. I mean, the fights that I do in my daily life are fights that I have created for myself as entertainment and as maybe a means to do something good. Like, for instance, pushing back on you anti-science guys is what I consider my mission because of what I've learned. But anyway, it's getting late. We gotta lay off. But yeah, okay, you're a believer. I'm not. I'm a Zen Buddhist. You're not. We figured that out. I don't feel embarrassed, but I'm not going to give you a fucking opportunity to do it now. So don't try.
I like some of the things you're trying to convince me about code and stuff, though.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We're going to be doing a lot of videos. We're going to do it, and I'm hoping you guys will, do some decent comebacks. And we're going to have Standing for Truth on our channel again. We're probably going to have Otangelo on again if he'll quit showing his damn blog and just talk to us.
I mean, I'm not really looking to participate a lot over here. If you can't really just come to like the straightforwardness about what we were talking about today, then it's not really like where I'm looking to come spend a lot of time. I do really appreciate having this discussion today, but some things are maybe more the close of something than an opening of something.
Well, I think we can trust that we're both good people and that we could meet on the street and we could get along, and that we may, like if one of us were in jeopardy, we would help each other. I mean, that's there, right? So we're humans. We're together in this.
Yeah, and I mean, I credit a lot to the light of Christ through humanity, because it talks about he's not only the propitiation for our sins, but the sins of the entire world. And I think some of what that means is of the world itself, And so,
well, I credit the world for my existence. So anyway, but I think we're done. I think we can go have a nap, a proper nap. Anyway, I want to make sure that I suppose the chat is going to go away. I got to read this chat later. I'm sorry, guys, in the chat. I had not paid a lot of attention to you. I will try to do better. I need somebody to sit on the sidelines and handle the chat, and I don't know how to do that with StreamYard. So what platform do you use when you broadcast live?
I use StreamYard.
StreamYard.
I'm just keeping it simple so far, yeah.
Can you assign like power to other people in the stream so that they can handle chat highlighting and things like that?
No, and unfortunately, yeah, you don't get the orange highlights like you do on YouTube
right
when you're looking at it through StreamYard. So yeah, it's a bit. I don't have any system of managing that sort of thing yet. No.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I think say my last 3 words and then leave you to outro your video or whatever. May I say my 3 words?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Just trust Messiah.
Pretty cool. Okay, guys. Just trust the Zen. So ending